a ticketing system built to handle a normal tennis crowd, nearly went down before the sun came up. And the reason had a name: Alex Eala. She hadn't stepped on court yet. She hadn't hit a single ball. But by 9 in the morning, staff at the Cincinnati Open were scrambling just to keep their servers online, and organizers were staring at numbers nobody had planned for. This is the story of how a 21-year-old from the Philippines walked into a $260 million tennis venue and rewrote what tournament directors thought they understood about ticket demand. To understand how strange this moment really is, you have to understand where Cincinnati was standing before her name ever showed up on the draw sheet. The tournament had just come off a record year. In 2025, the Lindner Family Tennis Center pulled in 285,000 fans, with roughly 70% of them traveling in from outside the city. Tournament director Bob Moran was already projecting the event would clear 300,000 attendees in 2026. That projection existed before Eala's entry was even confirmed. Then her name went up, and everything organizers thought they knew about ticket sales stopped applying. Before 6 in the morning, 3 full hours before staff had even arrived for the day, the ticketing platform was already buckling under demand. By 9, the team was in damage control, trying to keep the system from collapsing entirely. Cincinnati responded the way any business responds to demand it can't keep up with. It raised prices sharply. Tickets that had been selling for $275 jumped to $470, a 70% increase overnight. And it didn't slow anything down. Every seat sold out anyway. On the resale market, things got even more extreme. Second-round tickets were changing hands anywhere from $86 up past $685. Upper-level seating, usually an afterthought, was moving at triple-digit prices. Even the grandstand courts, historically the budget option for casual fans, were being snapped up. Whatever this was, it wasn't cooling off. To understand why, you need to look past the tennis and toward the 12 million people who make up the global Filipino diaspora. Many of them left home for work, for opportunity, for a better shot at supporting family back in the Philippines. They spend years abroad, often far from the people they love most. And when Alex Eala takes the court, something in that community shifts. They show up with flags. They chant like they're at a basketball game instead of a tennis match. Phil-AM community leader Tanet Mendoza described the scene at Eala's Australian Open run earlier this year in blunt terms. People were screaming like it was a basketball match. And here's the detail that says the most about what's actually happening. Some of those fans, by Mendoza's account, had never watched a single tennis match before that day. Not one. They weren't tennis fans discovering a new favorite player. They were showing up for something that had nothing to do with tennis at all, and everything to do with seeing themselves represented on a stage that size. Sports reporter Colin Salo, who covered the Cincinnati event, shared 2 stories that capture just how far people are willing to go. The first involved a group of college friends, now scattered across different states, who built their entire annual reunion around flying into Ohio just to watch Eala play. Not a weekend getaway, a pilgrimage they plan a year in advance. The second is even harder to believe. One fan watched Eala compete in Toronto at the National Bank Open, then got in a car and drove 8 straight hours to Cincinnati so they could watch her again. No flight, no shortcut, just 8 hours behind the wheel, because skipping a single match wasn't something they were willing to consider. Eala herself has talked about what these fans are giving up to be there. Filipino migrants, she said, are sacrificing real money and real time to afford these tickets. And she doesn't take that lightly. This isn't casual fandom. It's devotion, and the players she's sharing a tour with have noticed. Coco Gauff, the world number 4 and reigning US Open champion, spoke about it directly, saying she appreciates that Eala is bringing an entirely new demographic into the WTA. That new demographic is a global, tightly connected community willing to pay $470 for a center court seat, drive through the night to catch a match, and turn a professional tennis stop into something closer to a national celebration. And Cincinnati wasn't an isolated incident. This had already been happening in city after city. In Washington, D.C., roughly 80% of ticket requests were traced directly back to Eala's fan base. In Toronto, organizers had to physically move her off a smaller grandstand court that seated 2,800 people because it couldn't hold the crowd she was drawing, shifting her matches to center court instead. Industry estimates suggest she may have personally driven the sale of upward of 5,000 tickets in that city alone. The full 12,500-seat stadium filled to capacity every single night she played. Filipino flags covered entire sections of seating. One fan showed up in a full dinosaur costume and ended up going viral. Jessica Pegula, who played in that Washington final, admitted afterward that it felt like she was playing on Eala's home turf, despite being nowhere near the Philippines. Belinda Bencic went further, comparing the atmosphere to what it's like stepping onto a court against Serena Williams at her peak, a comparison that tells you everything about the kind of energy Eala is generating without a single major title to her name. Back in Cincinnati, Bob Moran, a tournament director who has spent years watching legends like Federer, Nadal, and Serena Williams compete on that same property, admitted he was genuinely caught off guard. Nothing in his career had prepared him for this particular kind of demand. Not a Grand Slam Champions appearance, not a retirement tour, not even a marquee rivalry final. A 21-year-old ranked 20th in the world had overwhelmed his ticketing infrastructure before most of his staff had even clocked in. One industry analyst summed up what makes this so unusual. Eala no longer needs a title or even a deep tournament run to command this level of attention. Her box office pull has essentially detached from her on-court results. Tournaments want her in the building whether she wins her first match or makes a deep run, because either way, the stands are full and the merchandise tent is busy. That kind of separation between performance and drawing power is almost unheard of in professional tennis. And that's really the story underneath the story. What Eala has built isn't simply a large fan base. It's closer to a traveling community that recreates a piece of home wherever it gathers. Miami, New York, Melbourne, Dubai, London, Cincinnati. The pattern repeats everywhere she plays. Fans arrive with flags, handmade signs, coordinated chants, and matching shirts. They fill seats that sat empty during previous year's tournaments. Sessions that used to be sleepy weekday afternoons are turning into standing room events with a noise level that doesn't match what tennis crowds usually produce. The Lindner Family Tennis Center, the venue Ben Navarro spent roughly $260 million building, might be the perfect stage for exactly this kind of moment. The facility includes a sunken 2,300-seat Champions Court, 31 outdoor courts, a 56,000 square foot player clubhouse, 19,900 fixed seats, 101 video boards scattered around the grounds, and a 16,000 square foot shaded pavilion for fans. Navarro personally funded roughly half of that renovation, with local government covering the rest. The venue officially opened in August 2025, with Novak Djokovic, Andre Agassi, and Steffi Graf all in attendance for the ribbon cutting. It was designed to be a showcase venue capable of handling major moments. Eala's appearance became the proof of concept. The merchandise operation alone expanded by 18,000 square feet to keep up with demand, and merchandise revenue has doubled since 2023. The tournament was already projecting to clear 300,000 attendees for 2026 before her name was even locked into the draw, meaning whatever additional demand she generated is essentially bonus growth on top of numbers organizers were already excited about. As for what Eala herself takes home from all this, simply entering the tournament secured her $26,255 in prize money. A round of 32 finish would push that number to $47,375. Those figures are a fraction of what the tournament itself is pulling in through ticket sales, resale markups, and merchandise, which makes the imbalance between her personal payout and her actual economic impact on the event even more striking. Through it all, Eala has stayed grounded about what's happening around her. She's called it an amazing experience and said it means a lot to see the Filipino community showing up and engaging with tennis, a sport many of them had never followed before her rise. She's expressed hope that it helps grow the game and gives her community something joyful to rally around. At one point during her remarks, she switched into Tagalog to speak directly to the fans in the crowd, and the reaction was immediate and loud. What's happening around Alex Eala right now doesn't have a clean precedent in tennis. This is a player whose drawing power isn't tied to her ranking, her recent form, or how deep she runs in a given tournament. She sells out ticketing systems before a single point has been played. She makes veteran tournament directors question assumptions they've held for years about what actually drives attendance. Eala herself has said she's come far, but still has further to go, and the schedule backs that up. The US Open is next, followed by stops in Singapore and the Asian Games. Cincinnati was simply the latest data point in a pattern that keeps repeating itself across continents. The tennis establishment is still catching up to what this actually means for how tournaments plan, price, and market themselves. The Filipino community that's driving it shows no signs of slowing down. And Eala is still only 21, which means whatever comes next probably won't look like anything the sport has dealt with before. Think about what actually has to happen for a ticketing platform to nearly fail before staff even show up for work. It's not one viral moment or one lucky headline. It's thousands of people across different time zones, all deciding at roughly the same time that missing this tournament wasn't an option. That's not a marketing campaign working as intended. That's an organic surge, catching even the people running the event off guard. And it's worth remembering Cincinnati isn't some small regional stop trying to build buzz. It's a venue that has hosted Federer, Nadal, and Serena Williams with decades of history and an established fan base of its own. For that infrastructure to still get overwhelmed says something about the scale of what Eala is pulling in. It also raises a harder question tournaments are only beginning to work through. Raising prices 70% and still selling out looks, on paper, like simple supply and demand doing what it's supposed to do. But the fans driving that demand aren't season ticket holders with money to spare. By Eala's own description, a lot of them are migrant workers who budget carefully and send money home every month. When she says fans are giving up a lot to be there, that's not a throwaway line. It's an acknowledgement that the community fueling this phenomenon is also the community with the least room to absorb a sudden price spike. That tension between a tournament capitalizing on unprecedented demand and a fanbase stretching itself financially to be part of it is likely to follow Eala to every stop on her schedule from here forward. It's also worth pausing on how unusual it is for a player ranked 20th in the world to be having this conversation at all. Tennis has always had box office names, players whose presence alone could sell out a stadium. But historically, that kind of drawing power came attached to major titles, long track records, or rivalries built over years of high-stakes matches. Eala doesn't have any of that yet. She's 21. She's early in her career. And she's already generating the kind of ticket office chaos that some Grand Slam champions never produce in their entire careers. That's the detail tournament directors keep coming back to, because it breaks the model they've used for years to forecast attendance and set prices. If a player's commercial value can outpace her ranking this dramatically, then the traditional metrics the sport uses to determine who gets prime scheduling, who headlines marketing campaigns, and who gets built into a host city's broader economic plans may need to be reconsidered entirely. There's also a broader pattern here about what fandom looks like when it's tied to identity and community rather than pure competition. The fans Mendoza described, the ones who had never watched tennis before Eala's Australian Open run, weren't converted by a marketing pitch about the sport. They came because Eala represented something personal to them, a connection to home, a source of pride, a rare moment of global visibility. That's a different kind of engine than the one most tournaments are built around. And it's part of why Cincinnati's staff, for all their experience, didn't see this coming. You can build a $260 million venue with every modern amenity imaginable, but predicting a cultural moment like this one doesn't show up in a standard attendance model. What happens from here will say a lot about where women's tennis is heading. The US Open, Singapore, and the Asian Games are all still ahead on Eala's calendar. And if the pattern from Melbourne, Washington, Toronto, and now Cincinnati continues, organizers at each stop are going to face the same scramble, the same pricing decisions, and the same questions about how far to lean into demand before it starts pricing out the very community that created it. Coco Gauff's comment about Eala bringing a new demographic to the tour wasn't just a polite compliment. It's an acknowledgement from one of the sport's biggest current stars that this audience didn't exist at this scale before her. So here's the real question worth sitting with. When a single player can move ticket prices 70% overnight and still sell out a $260 million venue, is that a sign of a healthy, growing sport? Or a warning about how far pricing can drift from the fans who built that demand in the first place? Either way, tennis just watched a 21-year-old change the math on what draws a crowd, and every tournament on her schedule from here forward is going to be planning around that reality.